Vicoding University, training humans to train themselves. And today we're going to talk about the 8 steps of Vicoding. Now, Vicoding itself is seeing inside a book. Okay, just like you walk around the park and you see trees and stuff like that, you're now going to walk around inside words and see or sense their meaning directly. It's not going to go through the 5 steps of verbal reading. We're going to just go directly from seeing the code to understanding what it means. Okay, to do that, we need to get it so that you look at the written material and you see it all and it makes sense. Okay, and I was sharing this with my wife, and my wife says, well, I can see it all right now. And I said, but it doesn't make any sense, does it? No, because we haven't organized it or put it together or trained yourself to put it together. Remember, once, consciously to put stuff together is very, very hard, but your automatics, they can put stuff together so fast that you'll just look at it and you'll understand it. Just like you looking at out in the real world, you see trees, cars, and stuff like that, and your unconscious just naturally just puts together, and you see what's going on. Just like you're gonna, when you get done with the training, you're gonna just see what's going on with the inside the written material. And the way I want you to think about it is there's the Rawlings, the person that wrote the Harry Potter books, also wrote a book, or at least a movie was produced, called The Fantastic Beasts and Where They Are, I believe. And I enjoyed the movie. One of the scenes is the star opens his briefcase and walks down inside the briefcase into, so to speak, this other world where he has all these beasts, so to speak, that he is trapped or captured or whatever. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, but that's sort of I want you to get that picture. Okay, because what you're going to do is you're going to open a book, and it's like you walking down inside that book and just seeing what's going on, what's happening, and understanding it. Okay, because Vicoding is seeing inside written material, visual coding. Okay, so we're going to go through the 8 steps. We're going to go through training. So first of all, it is seeing. So one of the things we're doing, number one, is we're going to train your eyes. We're going to work them out a little bit and get you to exercise them a little bit. So that's one of the things we're going to do is exercise your eyes, and that's simply because we want them to go through written material in a certain way, and if they're out of shape, then we don't want them, dying on the sidelines, so to speak. Then it's because you can't control your eyes that you can't, Vicode. Okay, so we're working on that a little bit. The next one is out in the world training. One of the things we want to switch is written material triggers the verbal process very, very strong. I mean, as soon as you look at it as a word, you start to try to figure out how to say it. Then you try to say it to yourself, and you start the whole process going. And we don't want that to even start. And we're going to do that. Remember, we interrupt a process by having you. Now, this is consciously, so first of all, it's effortful to start with, but later on, if you make it fun and exciting for yourself, you train yourself to automatically do it. So, the first thing we'd interrupt, the way to interrupt a process is to see a code and then give you something to do. So, in your first set of Flipbooks, you're going to be doing this. One of the first things that we're going to give you to do with written material is to, so to speak, pre-sort it and pre-alphabetize it. We're going to ask you to look at the code and decide, does this go in the beginning of the alphabet, the middle of the alphabet, or the end of the alphabet? And the point you really want to get this is, don't make this a big deal if there's no real right or wrong. It's pre-sort. It's sort of like getting ready to do alphabetization. Alphabetization. Excuse me. So, as you go through it, we're going to be putting them into groups, the beginning, the middle, or the end of the alphabet. So now you look at a code, not a word, but a code, It's just a code, and you're going to decide, does that go in the middle, or beginning, or middle? And you sort of decide what to do with it. So now you're out in the world already looking at written material as codes. And the thing that you're going to do with codes right now is just decide where they go in the alphabet. There you go. Now the next one is Flipbook training. Okay, and basically it's the same thing as we just talked about. Is you're going to be looking at codes, and you're going to try to decide something to do with them. Okay, so one of the first ones is that I just talked about. You're going to see a bunch of real words or real codes. Okay, and you're going to decide what part of the alphabet they go into. Now, as you see these, your brain's going to know what that word is, but you're not going to say it. You're not going to be saying it, because remember, this is silent thinking we're really trying to work on. We look at a code and we silently just understand it. Just look at a code and silently. So out in world training, when you pre-sort, you just look at it and silently know which group it goes in. And you just go, beginning. You don't say beginning, you just know. And then, okay, what's the other? So knowing what group it goes into. Flipbooks will have a lot of different groups to start with. Will again, it'll be something so you can just silently look at it and do something very simple with it that is very doable by just looking at the code. Okay, it isn't going to be anything tricky or anything like that. So, but again, the key word is silent. So initially, consciously, you're going to have to sort of get yourself to prepared and ready to be just silently do it and go through those. So Flipbook training is going to be that. Now, Flipbook training sounds like flipping through and speed and stuff like that, but really it's for focus. We're training a mental process. We're focusing on looking at a code and getting to a picture and understanding a grouping, something we instruct you to do. So getting to that process is what we want to look at. Now, one of the things that's going to happen, just like when you see in the world, a tail, a nose, and stuff like that, you don't see those anymore. You just see a dog. So as you see these codes, and you'll just see that goes in this beginning of the alphabet, that goes in the end. You don't even see the code anymore because you already got to what you're going for. Okay, it's going to be that fast. So you'll just see a beginning and end, the middle, and stuff like that. Work, code. And you won't. The goal is to get to the end. Okay, nerds, babies don't want to sit there and go, no, they want to know it's a dog. They want to get to the end. Okay, all right. Now the next one is going to be structural books. Now this is sort of stepping back and organizing that whole page. Written material is written in a certain way. It's written in lines, in sentences, in paragraphs, in pages, etc., etc., and it all comes together. Now, one of the things is, if you look at the real world, you don't see one little line at a time or one little aspect at a time. You see it in groups. Okay, so we're going to start seeing things in groups and putting together groups, and we can see more than one thing at a time. You can see a dog and a cat at the same time. You can see a dog, a cat, and a tree at the same time. You see a dog, cat, a tree, and a house, and a car, and we can go on and on. You can see them all at the same time and still know they're there and understand them. And the same thing goes with written material. You'll be able to see these things, understand them, and be able to put together the picture on how they're going together. And that's just a matter of training. It does, again, as my wife says, it doesn't make sense to me. I just see a bunch of words. Okay, but little by little, you're going to start seeing these words, and they're going to start coming together in a certain way. Okay, now, comprehension, memory, notes, organizational training. I'll talk that real quickly. Oh, real worlds. I almost skipped that one, didn't I? Okay, so structural books, we're going to get the organization. We're going to get the Flipbook training going. Now, as you're doing the structural books and seeing these sentences, words, and paragraphs, you will also start to pretend that inside now first of all, in the structural books, they're not real words or letters. It's just made a fake series of letters and stuff like that. So they're not real words at all, not real sentences at all. They just are random letters, but they're broken into 5, 6 links and 4 links and 2 links, etc., and then all mixed up, and then have periods with capitals, and so they look like sentences, they look like lines, they look like different things here, but they're not, because one of the biggest challenges we have is written material strongly triggers the verbal process, and it interferes with our training. So we want to first get you trained on what to do, okay? Sort of like taking you into a room with no spiders and getting you trained on what to do, and then once we bring the spider in, you already know what to do, okay? Okay, so first we're doing all this with fake words, shall we say, fake sentences, fake paragraphs, okay? But they're real enough that you can sense them as written material, and you can start to see how we put the organizations. So that being said, we're also going to, with Flipbooks, we're using real words, and we are putting together, we're triggering real questions and putting things together, etc. We're going to also, as we go through those fake sentences, pretend that we're putting together these words. So we're going to see that we're doing it. We're going to go through a little level 2, saying, yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, we can do this. And see that that's how it's going to look like, that's what it's going to feel like, etc., etc. Then when we get to the real book training, or real word training, or how do you want to put it, real code training, okay, is that you're going to see these real codes out there. And initially we're going to try to stay focused on the training process or methods that we use in Flipbooks and structural books. That is to say, we're going to have you look for certain things in the Flipbooks. We're going to have you something to do. Look for organizational skills. Oh, I see that sentence is, this long. I see this one has, this paragraph has whatever. And just seeing those aspects. And then as you see those aspects and answer those questions, just like as with Flipbooks, you're going to start already knowing what they mean and understanding them. And little by little, we're going to let you let go and actually then and go for understanding what you're saying, what it's saying. Now, comprehension is recalling and understanding the material that you just read. Now, even with verbal reading, some people are not very good with comprehension. And it has more to do with they haven't figured out a way to capture the material they just read, and then in such a way that they can come back and get it. Okay, let's just take movies. Okay, if you've ever gone to a movie, a lot of times you go to a movie and you go, oh, that was a great movie. And when somebody starts to ask you about the details of it, well, can you tell me how did it start? Well, stuff like that. Sometimes you remember it and sometimes you don't. Okay, you remember sort of the highlights and things like that, but a lot of the, the setup, the details, you're real fuzzy on. Okay, and it isn't so much that you're fuzzy because you couldn't remember them or couldn't get them. It's just you don't have a process set up so that you capture them and you can get back to them for later use. Now, that's just a matter of developing a process. Okay, it's when I first started teaching, I would teach a class for in adult school, and most of the you teach a class and nobody would take notes, and then they wonder, well, how come couldn't I remember anything? It's because you didn't take any notes. So I taught them how to take notes, and they were surprised. Oh yeah, here it is in my notes right here. And if you study your notes a little bit, you actually do pretty good. So one of the things is we got to develop a method to capture information. Okay. There are plenty of memory skills. There's ways to. It's sort of like when I drive someplace, I'm pretty good about being able to get to that same place again, because as I'm driving, or as you're Vicoding, you will, you might say you're looking for things that connect and recall what goes first, what goes second, what after that. And you start connecting things together. So the same thing with comprehension. We're going to guide you in ways of connecting things, ways of putting things maybe in memory palaces, taking a few notes here and there, and developing ways so that it doesn't just go in one eye and out the other. Okay, okay, like a movie sometimes does. You just, oh, great movie, have no clue really what happened, but boy, it was good. Okay, and that could happen with Vicoding unless we develop some skills as far as developing ways to remember what we did Vicode and understand. Okay, so that's sort of the comprehension. Now, one of the other things is preparation training, and we're going to talk a little bit about that just right now, but if you read with a purpose, you are looking for things and you grab onto them and you hold on to them better, just like we talked about with the comprehension. Okay, and if we look how a book is organized, we know where to look, so we can do it more quickly as well. Or what we are looking for, we may be looking for a lot of different things, or clues on it, or insight into this. And if we see how it's organized, we might know what to look for in what section and how it might be presented. So preparation training is just saying, okay, I'm going to sort of prepare so that I can do a better job at this. It's sort of like if you're going to go on vacation and you don't know if you're going to the mountains or the ocean, you don't know what to pack in your suitcase. You're not prepared for when you get there. But if you decide, okay, I'm going to the beach, now you can start to prepare. You've got to bring this, got to bring that, and now you start, what can I do? I can do this, and now everything starts to work a lot better. So preparation and reading with a purpose, real important aspects as far as reading. A lot of people, okay, read pages 12 to 72. Right? And it's like, oh, okay, wow. Why am I reading it? How is it organized? Those really help get you through it faster and help you retain the material better. Okay, a lot of so again, sort of skills that go with any written material. Project training. One of the last things that we want you to do is to create a project where Vicoding is essential to help you be successful. And it's like anything, if it's important to you and it works, it'll make it even more important to you, and you'll do better and better and better at it. Okay, it's sort of like learning a skill and then never using it is not a good idea. Yeah, you want to use it at least one project that's important to you where you use it and are successful at it. So getting successful at it makes it so that it's yours. You start to own it. So a project is really the last thing that we put together in there in as far as the training process. Okay, so now this way I want you to think about this is one of the things with Vicoding University is we want you to. This is a Vicoding skill, and you can see in this there's a lot of different steps or processes, and it's as you grow and develop yourself, training humans to train themselves, you're going to go, okay, I want to train myself to do this. Remember, there's probably something has to be developed before something else. Just like a baby first learns to learns to crawl, and then he learns to stand and get his legs stronger, and then he learns to walk, and then he learns to run. There's a process where there's some things that are required before other things are required. Okay, I think I shared with you when I learned to snow ski. I was prepared to learn to snow ski because I already had athletic legs. I already wasn't afraid of falling. I had protective clothing. I was prepared. So I was ready for that step, shall we say. So as you start to think, I'm going to develop myself, one of the things you want to be thinking about is that you training yourself, you need to start thinking about what step goes here first, what step goes there. Because a lot of times we get in this rush to get someplace and push to learn something that we're not ready to learn, we're not ready to do, we're not ready to, take on. And you might be asking, well, what are the steps before that? What do I need to do before that? First, like this Vicoding training, starts with the assumption that you already are a verbal reader. Okay, and so we're going to be starting from that point, but Vicoding training could be started out when a person first looks uh, at written material, and that process would probably be a little different. Okay, I'm not sure how different or what different would be, but I'm sure it would be different. Okay. Anyway, just want you to start thinking about it. We're helping you get through Vicoding, but you're going to have a lot of other things that you want to train yourself to do. So start looking at what goes first, what goes second, what processes, how would I break it down, what would I develop first, what second, how would I put them together, what methods would I use to develop the steps before, and am I ready for this step, and if not, what could I do to get ready for that step. Vicoding University, training humans to train themselves. All right, talk to you later.